What's up, guys? Nick here, and today we're going to be checking out patterns in Studio One, which is this fun stuff over here. If you've used FL Studio, you'll be used to the idea of using patterns, but if you've just been using Studio One, you're just used to the traditional style piano roll for instrument parts. But now we have these patterns that we can insert these new events, and they are pretty handy. So how do you insert a pattern? Because if you just insert an instrument part, you're just going to get this traditional piano roll. You do have a new drum view, but that's not what we're going over in this video. So let's select the instrument here that we're going to insert our event on. We go down here, instrument, or insert pattern, insert pattern, and the shortcut for that is Control-Shift-P. So if we go somewhere else with our cursor, we hit Control-Shift-P, that's going to insert a pattern for us. Now, the default view is going to be like this, and if you click here, oh, sorry, I'm in the drum mode. So this is the default view that you're going to get, and we click on this eye here, the inspector, and this gives us a little bit more control. So, another cool thing that they have is the step recorder. So you can actually create bass lines, arpeggios, insert chords or whatever really easily into specific sections of your pattern without actually having to record anything. It's just really easy to input information. So let's engage the step recorder, and that'll be the first thing that we go over, I guess. So here's the step recorder. We have one highlighted, so that's we know we're starting on the first part of the pattern, which is great. So let's insert some notes. I want to rest. How do we do that? You just go here and you click this button, insert rest, and that skips that part. Right? So we got a few rests here in between. So let's listen to what we just did. And the great thing about inputting your MIDI notes like that is you notice here on the velocity, they're not all consistent, right? So it's going to add a little bit of movement to your part, which is really nice and adds a little bit more of a realism, I think, which is great. And something I should mention is the default, you're not going to have that automation open. You have to click this weird little squiggly button here, and that'll bring this up, and you'll be able to automate each note that you have in your pattern, which is great. So we have this pattern laid out, and if you notice here, it goes through it twice actually. So what happens with these patterns is no matter how big the event is, the pattern is just going to keep repeating throughout the whole event, which is really handy, really great, really cool for getting simple ideas out, like laying down drums. That's how I did the drums here. I have 4 basic patterns, and then I just each time I have a new event here, it goes to a new pattern. So I just duplicated, I made my first pattern, duplicated it, added another variation, duplicated it, added another one, and then I just keep changing between them, changing the length, and that's a super easy way to get a rough idea out for a part, which is super handy. And this here, kick, snare, and hi-hat, this is just serum, and it's just to add a little bit more of my own kind of sound to the drums. So this is the, let's turn that off. So this is the kick, then this is the snare, and then the hi-hat just for the groove. And that just layers in with the with impact here. So I'm using impact for the main drums. Bass is presence. Pads are all presence. The leads are all presence. Everything is basically presence or impact. So, and it's all just standard sounds that you get in Studio One Pro 4. So nothing fancy going on here. I just have some like mastering stuff going on in my actual, like I have my little mastering chain that I made a while ago, and I just use that. I just basically have that as a preset, so I didn't really do anything here. I just kind of made this and just made sure the levels aren't killing you guys. And that's all there is to what I have set up here. I was mostly just made this to figure out how these patterns work and some of the cool stuff that you can do with it. So let's go back to this pattern view, F2. So let's say we want to create another variation, right? That's really easy. You just hit that. Now we got another blank slate to work on. But say you want to copy the variation that we created here. So click over here where the checker box is, this little black and white checker box thing. So click on variation 1. That'll make that active. You have to go to the drum mode, and then you can actually right click and hit copy pattern, go back to variation 2, and then we can paste it in, which is really great. Now let's go back to this view. Now we have this pattern copied in variation 1 and variation 2, which is pretty cool. What we can do is we can change this one around, we can do whatever. So let's go over how easy it is to just paint in notes and erase notes. You can see the little wand here changing as I go over empty or active nodes here in the pattern. So let's say I want to erase that. Simple. I'll change that to down here. What we can also do is hold Control, and now we can actually add accents to existing notes, or even when we create a new note, if you hold Control, it's going to be an accented note, which is pretty cool. That's a pretty handy little feature there. So if you want to have like a couple notes accented, you can do that. So that kind of adds a little bit of movement to your pattern. So that's pretty cool, and it's really easy. Like while you're looping, you can so you can hear that little accent kind of adds a little bit of more velocity to the attack. So that's pretty cool. A little handy way to add some movement to your MIDI pattern. So a lot easier to make changes and get ideas out in the pattern mode versus the traditional piano roll that we're used to in Studio One. So I definitely like that they added this. You can change the length of the notes. So right, so you can do some pretty cool, funky stuff here with these patterns. A lot easier to make, just get ideas out than it was before. So that's going to really help a lot of people's workflow that make electronic style music, I think, in this DAW. So if you're into this kind of stuff, I think Studio One 4 is definitely a good upgrade for you. If you just want to mix and record, they haven't really added anything to Studio One 4 to really make it worthwhile for upgrading. But from a songwriting perspective, if you want to use MIDI elements, it's definitely way easier, and you have a lot more control with this update. So that is really great. So let's keep going. Let's copy this, duplicate this. So hit D. Select that and hit D to duplicate it. Now what we can do is we can swap between variations, right? Let's duplicate this again. Now let's create a new variation here. Let's engage our step recorder. Right? And let's delete that. Alright, so now we have a third pattern here. So let's loop this. Is it still soloed? Yes. So let's go to the beginning and let's play this. So you can see how easy it is to just kind of start laying down ideas, which is really cool, really handy. So these are patterns here in Studio One. So what I showed you before, there's also the drum view. So this is the drum mode here for patterns. So you can see here as I go through different variations, nothing really crazy, but just some subtle variations to add something interesting to the track. And one thing you can do is in this view, you can go hit this wrench here, and now you can actually edit. You can edit the placement of these notes. So you can actually create custom, like if you want the bass drum to be here, move the snare to be above the bass, the clap here, you know, boom, you can do that. And then you can go here, you can reset the order if you want. Oh, and here you can actually change these views. So if you just want to see only the notes that you've used, I'll turn this off. Now we just see the active notes, and we can click here, show default, so that'll show all the notes that we can use in Impact. And this one shows just all the MIDI notes. So if we put stuff here, it's not going to do anything. So if you get in, like if you're getting into the drum mode and it's just showing you this, but you want to be able to access all the notes for whatever drum instrument that you're using, just hit the show default here. You go to this little page and show default, and that'll change the views that you have available, which is pretty handy. And I think if I go to, let's say that we select this one here, we go to this drum mode. Yeah, you can, if you're not using one of the, like here we're using Impact, so automatically populated this list here, but here we're using Presence and it's not doing that, so we can actually create our own. I think you can save it too. You can save your preset, yeah. So when you're in edit mode, and you can create your own lists that you can load up in from here. So we can do that right now. So you see here, store preset or store as default preset. So you can even create your own default placement of notes when you get into this view, and it's going to load it as the default. So we could flip this. I wonder if there's an easy way to reset the order. It'd be cool if there was some sorting modes that we could enable, like at least flip the sorting, so this would go the other way. But you could do that manually, right? I could go and put all these notes. Can I select multiple notes? Nope. But you can go and you can create your own custom order here. So, too far. So, and you can name these whatever you want, right? You can name it whatever. I'm naming these all the same apparently. You can change the color of the notes, so you can, that's where you do it right here. And you can enable and disable. I think that's what it is, enable and disable, yeah. So whether you want the notes to play or not, you can easily enable, disable there. And then once you set up your custom thing, you can store that as a preset. So let's just random preset. I'm going to delete that later. I'm not going to use that. And now we have that here, and we can load that in. And boom, it loads that in. Random preset. Let's reset the order. So we're back to the default. Well, if you want, you can also store this as a default. So whatever we had, like if you, let's say you use Superior Drummer all the time, right? You could set this as the base, the default one that loads. So you could go store as default preset. I'm not going to do that because I don't want that. But if you hit that, anytime you create a new pattern and you go to this drum mode view, it's going to be populated like this, which is pretty handy. That's pretty cool. So that's some of the stuff you can do here. Let's turn this wrench off, and let's go back to show default. There we go. I wonder if there's a way to get rid of all these names. I don't want all these names. Guess what I have to do is save this as preset. This will be no names. So now I could go here. Go no preset. Now I'll get rid of all the names. Perfect. I don't want all those names. It's too distracting. There we go. So that was an easy way to fix that problem. Alright. So I guess that's kind of a couple of things PreSonus update is allow us to sort these notes better without having to do it manually, and to actually reset these names somehow very easily. Alright. So I deleted all those patterns that we just made. I don't know if I mentioned, but in order to get the automation, like the default view when you start patterns in Studio One is like this, right? And if you want automation, you have to hit this button here, and this inspector here lets you add variations. So having these two enabled is pretty handy. Now when you're in the drum mode, you can actually select the lanes, individual lanes, which is pretty handy for doing automation. So if you want to do more specific kind of automation, like you want to, let's go to our drums here. Right, let's go to our drums. And let's say we want to automate this bass drum. We want to change the velocity here, make it a little more inconsistent, right? So let's do that. That's pretty cool. Another thing we have here is probability. So if I go here to this crazy arpeggio, super long, just super long run, up and down. You can see here I'm using the probability, so it's telling PreSonus that this is the chance that the note is going to go off. So as it goes through each pattern, it's going to kind of add some variation and not play each note the same. And you can see that they're kind of, some of them are faded out more than others, some are more clear, easy to see, and that's kind of showing you their probability to get played, which is pretty cool. And there's also the note repeat here, so it's going to play this note twice in the span of 1 and 4 and 5 and so forth. So it's just kind of cool effects and automation that you can add velocity, and then you can add your own. You can add more parameters here to automate. So you have a lot of control over things with the patterns still, which is really great. It's easy to do the automation in this view. So yeah, here you can select these individual ones, which is really great. I like that. And what's also kind of handy is they give you these kind of preset patterns here. One thing that'd be cool is if you can add your own, which is kind of handy. But this feature here is pretty handy. You can nudge everything over one, which is pretty cool, pretty handy, right? And you can just insert on the first of every bar, which is great, or you can in every other step, or insert one into every step. So that kind of gives, if you're doing, kicks or whatever, hi-hats, this kind of lets you just boom, you got it inserted. So that, that's basically what I did here. I just hit that. I had my kick drum already programmed, and it took me one button, which is pretty handy. Or if you want to clear a whole lane, you can just hit that and it clears it, which is pretty cool. So that's another, that's only available in the drum mode here. You don't get that in the regular melodic mode, they call it. There we go, melodic mode. So here in drum mode, we get these preset patterns that we can insert into a specific lane. And you can actually copy and paste the lane too. And you have access to some more parameters here. Let's check this out. So shift lane is that, yeah. What is double lane resolution? Oh, very cool. Didn't know I could do this. So now we can change the resolution of each specific lane. So we have, oh, this is See, I just figured this out, so this is great reason to do these videos, because I learned something from doing these as well. And half lane resolution, that goes back to what we had before. And half lane, that is pretty neat. So that's super useful for, especially for drum stuff, like definitely going to be very handy. And here we go. What do we have? Every second step, every fourth step. So that's basically just these buttons here. Fill lane. So yeah, that's just these. So this double lane resolution, half lane resolution, that's pretty handy. And we can do it for the whole pattern here too when we right click, but that's just basically like just changing this stuff here. That's pretty handy. A quick way to change the pattern around if you want to. That's pretty cool. Alright, so let's actually go over, listen to the song that I made. Let's check it out. So let's see what I did with the patterns in Studio One 4. So, something that sounds like it belongs in a video game to me. That's kind of what my tendency is to make, I think. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And that was done really quickly, really easily. And it's definitely kind of it's kind of really nice to have this kind of fresh way to make music in Studio One 4 if you're into doing stuff with MIDI keys, MIDI, whatever in general. I think this is a good addition. Definitely seems like, I feel like Studio One 4 was kind of rushed a little bit, so not everything seems to be fully like implemented, and there's still quite a bit of room for improvement, I think, but this is definitely a step in the right direction if you're into making electronic style music, or even just for just like drums and stuff. It makes it a lot easier. And there's the new drum editor that they added, so that's also another a good way to edit MIDI in Studio One 4 now. So I don't know if there's anything else to go over with patterns. I think that's kind of everything. Another thing that you can do is you can also rename your variations here. I didn't go over that, but if you want, you can a little loud there. You can rename these variations to whatever you want. First one, just name them so it's easier for you to know what the actual parts are. So and that's basically it. That is patterns in Studio One. Hopefully you learned some stuff and you enjoyed this video, and until next time, take care.